Hi guys, we're going to read chapter 5 today of Nancy Drew and the Clue Crew Scream for Ice Cream. So let's see what's going to happen. Okay, in chapter 4, if you remember, Kevin dropped a whole bag of a bunch of chocolate and they were thinking maybe he was the one who stole Kendra's recipe. So let's see how that goes. What happens in chapter 5? Sticks and cones. Kevin would need chocolate to make Kendra's ice cream flavor, Bess said. I told you he was a suspect. Nancy shook her head. Kevin is always trying to get his hands on sweets, she said. The shrill sound of whistle made the girls jump. Nancy whirled around, and Daisy and Jim and Barry fan club were standing at the end of the aisle. Daisy was wearing a yellow Jim and Barry Gorilla Vanilla t-shirt and a sliver whistle around her neck. Okay, group, Daisy said. We have our shopping list. Now let's move out. The fan club nodded. Then they spread out in many different directions. Daisy is one of our suspects, Nancy whispered. Let's see what we can find out. Daisy was wiping her whistle on her t-shirt when the girls walked over. Hi, Daisy, Nancy said. Did you come up with a flavor for the contest? You bet, Daisy said, and it is sure a winner. What is it, Bess asked. As if I'm going to tell you, Daisy said. Only club members can know the top secret recipe. Daisy swung her whistle as she walked away. Only members can know the top secret recipe, George mimicked. Give me a break. Let's follow the members around, Nancy said in a low voice, and see what they're buying. They were about to walk when, Girls, Mrs. Fan called, we have to go now. Nancy grabbed a carton of blueberries on their way to the checkout counter, and they couldn't follow Daisy or the club. But they had a great clue. The fan club had a recipe, and it was top secret, just like Kendra's was. Now, if we can just find out what it is, Nancy said. Is your arm getting tired, George? Nancy asked. George rolled the coffee can back and forth over Fan's doorstep. Nah, I'm on a roll, George joked. The girls were in Fan's front yard making their second batch of ice cream. They didn't want to be near Chip when their ice cream was finished. Can I taste it now, Bess asked. She waved a plastic spoon in the air. Don't start that again, Bess, George groaned. Hey, Clue Crew, a voice called, and the girls looked up. Their friend Marcy Rubin was passing by the yard with her 5-year-old sister Cassidy. Hi, Cassidy called. Want to see my brand new sneakers? They're not new, Cassidy, Marcy said. They used to belong to me. Cassidy stared down at her red and white sneakers. No wonder they smell, she said. Nancy, Bess, and George walked over to Marcy. We were just making ice cream for the contest, Marcy, Nancy said. How do you have time? Marcy asked. Aren't you guys solving the case of Kendra's missing ice cream recipe? Nancy, Bess, and George shared surprised looks. Who told you that? Nancy asked. I read it on Deidre's website, Marcy said. She wrote that the Clue Crew will solve the case for sure. There was even a neat picture of you guys all giving a thumbs up. Did she give away Kendra's recipe? Nancy asked. Nope, Marcy said. Nancy sighed with relief. At least she didn't do that, she said. Hey, Marcy said, looking to her side. Where's Cassidy? The girls spun around, and Cassidy was sitting on the doorstep eating Clueberry ice cream from the coffee can. Yummy for the tummy, Cassidy shouted. Drop that spoon now, you little pest, Marcy shouted as she raced over to Cassidy. Our second batch of ice cream, George groaned. Maybe we aren't meant to enter this contest, Bess sighed. Nancy smiled as she watched Marcy wrestling the spoon out of her little sister's hand. Oh, yes we are, Nancy said. Cassidy likes it, so maybe Jim and Barry will too. I think Daisy did it, Dad. Nancy said that night, and she was standing right behind Kendra. And she said their new recipe was top secret and a winner. Mr. Drew looked up from the newspaper he was reading. He liked reading the paper in his favorite chair every night. Try not to jump to the conclusions, Nancy said. Sorry, Nancy, he said. Nancy wrinkled her nose and said, Jump where? It means don't end your case before you check out everything, Mr. Drew said with a smile. Things aren't always what they seem to be, you know? Okay, Daddy, Nancy said, but it sure seems like Daisy took Kendra's recipe. It was still light outside, so Nancy had permission to play in the yard. With Chip on at her heels, she skipped to the front door. Come on, Chip, Nancy said. Let's see if you can catch a frisbee. Nancy swung the front door open. As she stepped outside, she felt something crunch under her foot. She looked down and gasped. A message had been left at her doorstep, and it read, Give up. Nancy looked closer, and the message written with wooden popsicle sticks. See? It says, Give up. Uh-oh, somebody's on to her. And then now we're at chapter 6. Let's see what happens.